Hey guys, this is Untitled Lego Maniac. Be sure to check out my other social media accounts and my Patreon. Links are down below.
Yeah, it's been some time since I made this sort of tutorial video. I apologize that it's been this late. It's just during the summer, I've been busy with work, and I'm busy with other figures. And plus I was at Brick Fair, and just a lot of things are going on so far. And it's gonna get worse later on. Just got a text. It's from my former friend. But I guess better late than never, right? I promised you guys that I'm gonna give you a tutorial on Etape. So if you guys don't know what Etape is, Etape stands for electrical tape. I use this a lot on my figures and it's super useful. Now there's a lot, I'm going to give you guys some tips and tricks how to use Etape, like how to cut it properly, what the materials you need, what I'm going to teach you to make, such as boots. I'm going to go over all that. Etape surprisingly isn't that difficult compared to like normal sculpting or like painting. So this shouldn't be a very difficult tutorial. I will show you my procedures on how to make some complicated things with Etape. I'm not gonna do like trench coats, jackets, or capes because there are already videos on that on Dylan's channel. If you guys know him as the Moose Fix. So the two main colors I use on Etape are black and white. As you can see, I used a lot more black than white. I'm planning on maybe buying some more different colors of Etape because they have all sorts of colors. They have red, they have yellow. I'm probably gonna get yellow and red because painting with red and yellow, at least for me, it's very difficult. It's just as difficult as white. The reason why I got white Etape because painting white onto black isn't good, and you can tell my Jesse figure on my Team Rocket custom minifigures. But I still went with these two basic colors because it just makes me save money on different types of Etape. If I want to paint lighter colors, warm colors such as red, orange, and yellow, like those light colors or anything pale, I would paint it over white because I think it'll be easier than painting yellow over black. You know what I'm saying? As for darker colors, I find it easier to paint it on black. You could do it on white, sure, it'll look a bit brighter, but if you're looking for something a bit darker, I think black is a good way to go. White overall is a good Etape to use if you want to paint colors over it. The materials you're going to use are X-Acto knives, of course. Like, this is a very useful tool in minifigures in general. Next tool you want are rulers. Now, not just any kind of ruler. I recommend using a metal edge ruler with a cork underneath. The cork is just so it can like hold in place, and the metal because if you use a plastic ruler, what will end up happening when you cut along the edges of the ruler, you might accidentally cut away the plastic of the ruler, which is not what you want to do. But with metal, X-Acto knives wouldn't just cut through metal easily. So do not get plastic, do not get like anything else, like any other rulers, rubber especially. Only get a metal edge ruler. That's what I recommend. Lastly, I need to buy a new one because mine's just bent and messy. You need a cutting board. A cutting board is exactly what you need, unless you don't care about your desk. The thing is, since I'm a college student and I don't want to damage the desk I'm using so much, I use the cutting board for everything. Whether I'm painting a little bit here, I already have a palette for that, but I did a little painting there before. Whether I'm like sculpting or using Etape or I'm cutting Lego parts, a cutting board is exactly what I use. And the thing is, this is a self-healing one, so it's like no matter how many scratches you'll make, it won't leave a mark. That's what this is good about this cutting board. I'm not sure how much I paid for this, but you can get smaller ones if you're not going to work in big surfaces like what I am for other projects besides custom minifigures. Lastly, the last material you need is Superglue. Because Etape loses its stickiness, its adhesive like over time, which is why for my Wong figure, the Etape that's supposed to be like the binding of the book, it's falling apart and it's not sticking anymore. Superglue is definitely the way to go if it's getting too slippery and it's not sticking in place. Actually, the very last material you also need are toothpicks because some super glues, they might give you too much when you squeeze out a little bit, so having a toothpick with you will allow you to dab a little bit of super glue onto Etape so you can use as much like little tiny bits as possible. Do not like cover your Etape with super glue too much. Only put in certain areas, like especially where it's going to stay in place. If you're going to have to use super glue on pretty much all the sticky side of E-tape before replacing it onto our torso, okay, fine, you can do that, but it's not that necessary unless you absolutely have to. Like, especially for minifigure sides of the torso, if you know it's gonna move around too much, it's gonna rip, okay, then fine, use super glue on all sides. But I don't really recommend it that much because I just think it will save more time if you just do it on the ends. Enough talking, let's move on to the actual tutorial. Alright, the benefits of using the tripod that I bought over the summer is the fact that you guys can actually see what I'm working on right here, which I think is great. So first off, I'm going to show you guys how to cut like very straight lines of E-tape. You can see I already have a lot of leftover E-tape right here. So yeah, that's what I do. Whenever I have like leftover E-tape, which I know I'm going to use, I usually save it here. If not, if I'm not going to use it at all, I just like peel it off and throw it away. Now you can see I have this like really thin strand of E-tape here, and this can be super useful when I do like straps and belts. Now, I'm going to teach you guys how do I make belts onto figures. Now, just for the sake of this video, I'm going to get a fresh new roll. Now, so what I do, just quickly peel off the E-tape, and let's say I'm making a belt. So what I do a quick measurement of the minifigure's leg. I'm going to take this black leg here. You see? Because this is going to be my Ra's al Ghul figure. So let's make a belt for him. So I'm going to do like a rough estimate of exactly how long it should be. So it'll be easier on myself. And once you reach your mark, just get your X-Acto knife. Do not cut it, just make a tiny dent on it. And hopefully that's right. That should be right. And once you're done, just press down on the X-Acto knife. Do not slide it, because if you do that, you'll probably accidentally like make it crooked, and that's not what you want to do. You gotta make sure it's straight as possible. Cut it, tug it a little bit, and it should come off. That's the thing about E-tape. You can just press down onto E-tape and it'll just cut away. You don't have to like do all this and stuff. It's not necessary except for this next section. Now, to cut a very thin sheet of E-tape, you gotta make sure the corkscrew is facing in front of you, and you gotta make sure you're parallel to the E-tape you're cutting. And you're gonna have to figure out how thick you want it to be, if you want it super thin or thick. So you guys can see here, I covered like this whole part right here. So if you want to cut like the leg assembly area, what you want to do, you got to make sure you got to figure out where it is, and do not absolutely cover that little parts of E-tape and then cut it, because if you do that, you're not going to be entirely sure. I mean, it's a really risky game, because then you'll probably end up accidentally cutting it too long or too short. If you want to be perfectly right, measure it and only cover up the parts that you're not going to use. Alright, and then make sure it's parallel as possible. Make sure you start up here before going straight into the E-tape, and then cut away. Make sure the blade is like right next on the side, because you want to cut the E-tape. You don't want to be way too close, or else you might just wear off the metal potentially. This is why I do not recommend a plastic ruler, which I said before, because then you might actually cut the plastic of the ruler, and you'll just probably not only potentially hurt yourself, but you'll just waste money there for buying that ruler. So you just got to make sure you're gonna cut a nice clean stroke, and be sure to make sure you hold on to that ruler as flat, and make sure it's flat down on the surface as possible, because if your ruler is very loose, you might not only you might move the ruler, but because the E-tape does not like to cut very well whenever you're moving like this, because what will happen, you'll just move the E-tape and it won't look straight. If you want it to look straight, you have to really hold that in place. And as you can see here, we have the strand of E-tape that we cut. And what I do, I would dab a little bit of super glue. So we're going to do that. We're going to get this super glue. This is the super glue I use, because the thing is, with this, unlike most super glue, they leak out automatically. This one doesn't do that. So you can have like a little bit and sticking out, it'll just come back down. So I recommend this super glue. It's a Loctite super glue. I got this at Home Depot. I believe they're at least like $5 or less, maybe 3. I don't know. It depends on how much fluid there is. This is like a 14 ounce, 0.14 ounce, sorry, 4 grams. Some of them have like a bit more or maybe less. So we're gonna dab a little bit of super glue onto the crotch area. And as for that strand, I'm gonna carefully place it on the side. Now again, I recommend doing something like this. Just add dabs of super glue each time, because if you do it on a whole, if you just like lather this thing with super glue, the problem is you'll get a lot of super glue on your finger. And it's not going to be good for this side of the leg, because then you'll get super glue onto the leg assembly and you won't move this at all. And plus, if you want to remove the legs for some reason off the joint, it's better to not glue this part here, so that way so the Etape can at least move around. You see what I'm saying? So we're gonna rotate this, and we're gonna dab another bit of super glue onto the butthole section on the top. Just a tiny dab. And do not stretch out Etape. I've done that so many times, it will not look good. That's why you have to make sure you cut the exact measurement. You can like pull it and tug it just if you have to. Do not overdo it. Then we're gonna add a little bit more super glue. And as you can see, we're gonna make sure it connects. Gonna have to wait for the super glue to dry as well. And as you can see, here we have the belt. This is the belt. And then what I would do, I would sculpt Procreate or get a dry sheet or a dry piece of Procreate and just cut away the rectangle and use that for the buckle to hide that little gap in between, the cut in between. So that's how you make belts. Straps are pretty much the exact same procedure. You just look at this. See here, when you bend the torso on the side, you notice how the Etape is going downwards. If you start from the very top and the Etape goes downward, you're not going to cover this whole entire side section here. So now we're gonna have to make a little bit markings, so that way we know where the Etape is supposed to end on the top. Do not cut it, just make a little tiny mark so you know it. And plus, it makes imprints. What's so good about Etape, that it does leave imprints. So if you're lost, when you take it off, you can see it's sort of there. We're gonna have to cut through the middle. Be sure to know where exactly you're gonna cut. In fact, Etape definitely shows a lot of layers. So you can see this middle bulge here. That's where the Etape underneath. That's the end. So we're gonna have to make a marking here. And there we go, we got that side. And we got the other. There we go. And we got the other. So this is how you make like a Etape jacket if you want it wrapped around the figure, just like that. Just like, if you want to make your own rescue suit Captain America, that's what you can do. Or if you want to make Ruby figures, because my Ruby custom right here, her body was entirely covered with white Etape. Move the E-tape around, which is something you don't want to do. So that's it, guys. My camera's on me, so I gotta make this quick. I hope you guys learned a lot with E-tape. I'm planning on making more tutorials. Next one's probably gonna be all about painting. LED, I'm still not sure about LED. That probably won't happen until like months from now, maybe a year. It depends if I'm getting better with LED. That's it, guys. My camera is about to die, and I'll see you guys later.